There are two ways nations keep people from leaving: the North Korean model of walls, guards, and landmines, and the United States model of beliefs. The propaganda in the US is America is the greatest country on earth and everywhere else is dangerous. Neither are true. First, the US is 15th globally in medium wealth among major economies. That is, it's one of the poorest major economies, and it's 60th in life expectancy. It's the only G20 nation with no required paid vacation or maternity leave. Americans work 500 hours a year more than Germans, and they don't get health care unless they're rich or happen to work for the right company. American food has additives known to be dangerous and are banned in many other nations. This is far from the greatest country on earth. Americans are also told that other nations are more dangerous, but 127 nations are safer than the US. The US is, in fact, one of the most dangerous nations. And on top of that, it imprisons more of its own people than Russia, Iran, China, and North Korea. But America has freedom. But come on, what freedom does America have that Norway, Italy, Greece, Australia, Canada, ad nauseum doesn't have?
I've been pretty critical when it comes to the United States. I've been pretty critical when it comes to, how the US runs things. I've been critical about, the political system, the infrastructure, the constant deterioration of American society, right? I've been pretty, hesitant to say too many good things about the United States because quite frankly, I see the writing on the wall and I see the direction that the country is headed towards. But one thing I will not say is that the United States is the worst country in the world, right? Because it's not, right? There are far worse places in the world for somebody to live in rather than the United States. And America, honestly, is one of those better places to live at. Compared to every country in the world, America is one of the better places to live at. But one thing I'm not going to say is that the US is the best place to live, right? Like it's the best country in the world because it's not, right? America's not the best country in the world. Quite frankly, there's really no best country in the world, right? It really depends on what somebody is looking for. It really depends on what somebody wants to have in their life as to which country is going to accommodate, to their lifestyle, to their preferred lifestyle choices, right? And I think one thing that a lot of Americans need to ask themselves is what is it that I can get only in the United States that I can't get in other countries, right? Because when you really think about it and when you really look at all the different videos and comment sections about people, Americans especially leaving the United States, you see all these negative comments about, oh, well, if you want to leave the US so badly, then leave, or enjoy your dangerous country, right? You have all these negative comments from Americans who are shaming other Americans for leaving the United States when half of these people have never traveled outside the country, right? And so it really just makes you think it really makes you think about the lack of perspective when it comes to the vast majority of Americans, because if you really break things down, right, if you break things down to I guess a diagrammic level, right, I don't even know if that's a word, but if you break things down and use like a diagram, right, we as Americans, we live in such a bubble, we live in such like a an inflated bubble to the point where we believe we're the center of the world, right? We believe we're the center of planet Earth, right? I mean, the only time you see the world news is what, like on ABC or something like that, right? And that's only if something dramatic happens. That's only if something, crazy is happening in another country. Otherwise, you're just going to see your local news or you'll see like the countrywide news, right? But when it comes to other countries, they're always showing what's going on in other parts of the world, right? You got BBC, you got NHK for those who are watching in Asia, specifically Japan and things like that, right? And we as Americans, we're so stuck in this bubble to where we think that we know what's going on in every region of the world. Like dude, there's so many video clips on YouTube where I have seen ignorant Americans on spring break that don't even know that there's a war going on in Iran, or that don't even know that there's a heat wave going on in Europe, or about the Ukraine and Russian war, right? There are so many people in this country that are so focused and out of touch with reality, that are too busy like celebrating holidays, or going on vacation and things like that. They're too busy doing things like that, that they don't even know what's going on in the rest of the world, right? And that really makes you think, like, who really are the ignorant ones here, right? Is it the rest of the world, or is it Americans, right? Now, that doesn't go without saying that the um the rest of the world doesn't have ignorant people, because there are ignorant people everywhere, right? But at some point, as an American, you have to ask yourself, what is this what is this disdain that Americans have towards other Americans that want to leave the country? Like, seriously, ask yourself this question. At this point in 2026, with the rise of AI, with the rise of technology, right? We're basically living in techno feudalism, right? We are living in the times of change. We are living in the times of truth, right? Really ask yourself, what is it that you can't get in another country and feel like you can only get in the United States, right? Because when you really think about it, there are so many other countries that are safer than the United States. There are so many other countries where healthcare is affordable, free healthcare. There are so many other countries where uh, education is free, right? There are so many other benefits that other countries have that rival the United States, right? And not to mention, everything out here is expensive, right? Now, that doesn't go without saying that other countries aren't expensive either, but everything out here in the United States continues to increase in price. Everything out here in the United States continues to, make people be priced out of life, right? You look at Gen Z, in my opinion, I think Gen Z is going to be the first homeless generation, right? Because how many Gen Z kids are still living at home with their parents, right? Past the ages of what, 20, 21, 22, all the way, even 30, 35-year old. Oh, well, it's not even Gen Z, but Gen Z is like graduating high school and then going to college, graduating college, can't find a job and still got to go back home and live with their parents, you know? So it's like, as the country continues to see deterioration, you really have to ask yourself as a person. Now if you're an American who has made it out here, and if you're an American who feels like, this is the only place for you, okay, fine, fair enough. Stay out here, make your life out here, right? But as we see how things are going, as we see the country constantly, having complaint after complaint, right? People just unable to survive, people just unable to live. We're going to start seeing that net negative migration. We're going to start seeing that increase, right? Especially with the rise in data centers, especially with the rise in AI replacing people's jobs, and people unable to find a job, right? People are going to do whatever they can to make money in the United States and then go live somewhere else. I guarantee you that's going to happen. Net negative migration is a real thing. America is for making money and the rest of the world is for living, right? That's how it's been for the longest time, but it seems like we as Americans are just now realizing that. And it's one of those things where you have to realize before it's too late, because the data center creation is not going to stop, right? AI development is not going to stop. And when you really realize what's happening within the societal framework of the United States, you'll start to realize that, there's no place for the average person anymore. The middle class is constantly being stepped on, pushed out, right? It's only going to be a country for the rich, because, slave class is incoming. Believe me when I say that. I mean, you don't have to believe me. Take what I say with a grain of salt, right? Take what I say with a grain of salt, but you know, it's inevitable. It's inevitable at this point, right? I mean, just like I mentioned previously, there are so many other safer places in the United States, and I'm not going to sit here and say that America is the most dangerous country, because it's not. But right, every so often you see another shooting, you see another stabbing, you see another, violent outbreak of something happening right within this country. And it makes you think, like, do we really have all these, you know, gun control laws? Do we really have any of these like rights under control at all? Do we have any of these freedoms that we really claim we have, right? You can't even talk, or you can't even say the things that you want to say in public, or and sometimes even online, because everybody has an opinion, and everybody's just going to get butthurt and offended over whatever you say, even if it's just your opinion. But hey, I thought it was freedom of speech in this country, right? I mean, you sit here and you think about all these different aspects that are going on within the United States, and then you start thinking and questioning to yourself, okay, well, maybe the US isn't what it seemed, right? And I used to think that America could have had, it could have been this great country that, it once was, but things are different now, right? The writing is on the wall. America has just deteriorated to the point of no return, nearly the point of no return, right? And the only option I see for a lot of people in this country is to make your money, do what you got to do, take care of your family, and get out of here, right? Because we see freedoms and your constitutional, right, your constitutional American rights just being taken away in real time, right? You see the rich, you see the elite, you see them all getting away with things that they shouldn't be getting away with, but we as Americans, we don't do anything about it, right? The politicians, the elites, the rich tech oligarchs, they get away with any and everything they want, while we all still have to sit here and slave away. So think about it. Think about what direction you want your life to head towards, and just make the best decision for yourself. I'll see you guys in the next video.